7:44, 16 moving up to 8 o'clock in our final segment. We're focusing on a summer studio at Republic Bank Sports Club, which is called Integrative Critical and Design Thinking. Our guest, an educator from the Toronto School District, who focuses on English, special education, history, health, and phys ed. He is a curriculum leader, literacy instructor, and school consultant, and incorporating complex problem solving and social innovation into various curricula offered by schools, who is Mr. Jeremy Dickstein. And also we have our friend, PhD student, and one of the founders and facilitators of this camp, Keita Demming. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. Keita, let's start with you. And how is the camp going? Has it started yet, or is this a different phase of the camp?
Today is actually the last day of the camp, so today the participants are doing presentations and of what we've been teaching them throughout the week, 2 weeks that we've been with them. And what's really exciting is that it's the first day we're partnering with Habitat for Humanity, and they're working on a problem for Habitat Humanity, and they're presenting their solutions today. So today is going to be a presentation with Habitat for Humanity, parents, our major sponsors, Republic Bank, and that kind of thing. So that's what we're doing today.
What has the response been from the students, and how many students are participating?
We have about 18 students and about 5 returning students. The response is, I think, is quite great, considering that the material is very dense and takes big concepts and brings it down. And the ideas they've come up with, I think they have to refine them this morning. But I think they're going to turn into really, really interesting projects in the end.
All right, Jeremy, well, welcome to the set. Tell us about your history in focusing on integrative, critical, and design thinking, especially with young people who come from different cultures to possibly to yours.
Absolutely. So I've been teaching in a couple different countries now. I've taught in Canada, in Australia. I've done a bit of teaching in Costa Rica as well. And the really key part for me is realizing that these kind of skills are something that are not sort of particular to one culture, that they really are sort of cross-cultural skills, and that everyone can use them. I mean, whether it's sort of within their own community or sort of on a more global level, and that it's just really important to kind of get students at a younger age learning those skills, so that by the time they actually are in sort of positions of authority or power, they can then implement them. What
are some of the philosophical underpinnings of trying to get someone, a young person in particular, to change their mindset from a consumer kind of thinking to really looking at things in a different way, critical thinking?
A lot of the time, the issue is usually actually because most school systems are currently set up in a way that really focuses on things like reading and writing and arithmetic. It's the very classical skills. Yeah, and those are obviously very foundational skills, and they're really important as societies that we sort of foster those skills. But at the same time, to ask someone who's really only had sort of problems designed for them to then go out and deal with climate change, which is a really complex problem, it doesn't quite work. We need to sort of give them the skills that they can sort of approach problems that seem like they are unsolvable, and okay, what is the first step to that? And that's something that we really focus on.
So it's really a step process.
Yeah, well, we different processes. So systems thinking, design thinking, and integrative thinking are all sort of 3 different theoretical approaches to it, and we just kind of take what we like from each of them and try to give the students tools to then tackle these big problems.
Okay, Keita, it may seem like a very obvious question, but what do you want to leave? What do you want these students to leave with most of all when they participate in this camp? What skills should they definitely have when they leave this camp?
Well, one, that focusing on understanding a problem is probably the key step one. So often what people tend to do with major problems is we jump to solutions without deeply understanding a problem. So for example, they all have been given a case study, and they've gone through a problem several times, and they've cycled through understanding it and reframing it several times, and that's given them insight into finding novel solutions. So if they take that away, hey, let's understand this problem really well, and then quickly move through designing, prototyping, and testing that problem, and then reframing it so that it's not as expensive and we don't waste a lot of time. So we're always keeping flexible. If they can learn those 2 things, stay flexible in your implementation and understand the problem deeply, I'll be happy.
What are some of the major challenges you usually encounter with students in terms of changing their way of thinking or their approach to problem solving?
I'd say the biggest issue is actually just that they've been trained to give the right answer a lot of the time, and so
give the right answer.
Right. At most of our schools, we test for the right answer. We want to know the right answer, and so by the time the student actually presents an answer, there's a lot of pressure for them to actually get the question right. And that's actually really problematic when you're dealing with issues that have numerous right answers, that could have potentially some right answers, or that have sort of vague outputs that you need to start acting on now. And so at some point, the fear of being wrong is actually one of the biggest things that you sort of have to break them out of before they can really kind of start tackling it and stepping out into issues that might be somewhat murky in terms of outcomes and what they might actually be.
How much do you incorporate when you go to a different jurisdiction like Trinidad and Tobago, the culture of that jurisdiction in terms of some things that may already exist that the students may not see as innovative or as globally impacting?
I think the biggest actually stepping stone is getting someone to focus on their own life and their own community and how these skills and tools will affect them. And then when they see that sort of immediate sort of result, then they can sort of start to focus on how that might be actually sort of scalable to a much larger problem either in their school, in their community, in their country, and whatever it might be. So it's very important to sort of focus on and let them see how it applies to themselves, because everyone has problems that are sort of open-ended.
Well, I'll start with Keita and then go to you after, Jeremy. What are the scales of the issues, the challenges? Are they like climate change scale, or are they sometimes really personal, intimate little scenarios that you all set up and have the students take a shot at it?
So this year specifically, it's I'd say it's on the scale of an NGO, so it's specifically Habitat for Humanity. So it's on that organizational level scale. The thing that I do like about a lot of things that we're teaching is that they're transferable to personal life. So a lot of the returning students talk about, we didn't predict it, but we teach them how to change perspectives so that they can see a problem from a different angle. Returning students talk a lot about how using that perspective changing aspect of it, they deal with conflict very differently. So they're no longer fighting with their parents and their peers because they're now saying, hey, I can change if I change my perspective, or if I can try to think through how did this person come to that conclusion, then it helps them in conflict and it also helps them in problem solving. So we see those kind of things happening that we didn't predict, but it's a great outcome for us to have.
Jeremy, did you encounter challenges with the education system? When a student goes through a program like this, sometimes they go back into the classroom with a different kind of, well, hopefully a different kind of mindset. And sometimes the teachers themselves are not prepared for the answers they get. So there's a resistance, and that's not what I ask you. Well, this is a different approach, and there's that sort of clash.
Absolutely, and something I think both Keita and I really kind of try to foster is that questioning assumptions, and that's just not your own assumptions, that's assumptions that people put on you, and so we do worry somewhat about what happens when you sort of train these people to sort of think broadly and really kind of try to look at all the different perspectives, and then what happens if they get a very rigid teacher, and as a teacher, I absolutely feel for them when a student comes and starts questioning or comes up with sort of, well, why are we taking this test that way? Why can't I do it this way? Can I present my thing? And at the same time, I think as a teacher myself, that's the kind of student you want. I mean, you want someone who doesn't just sort of randomly kind of take...
You want.
Absolutely.
I have encountered several teachers at different levels, at secondary and tertiary level, and unfortunately at university level is sometimes where you get the most resistance.
Absolutely.
Because the lecturer wants you to regurgitate X, Y, Z, plus 1, 2, 3 is equal to X1, X...
And the hope is actually that with these sort of skill sets that we teach, because they are sort of learning how to focus on empathy and stuff like that, that they realize very quickly how to deal with different people, and that's part of what we sort of teach is that organizations are made up of different people, countries are made up of different people, and everyone is going to have a different mindset. And so some people are more open-minded, some people are more closed-minded, whatever it might be. The idea is to then say, okay, in their shoes, how are they looking at this problem? And once you start to try to understand that, then you're much more able to sort of communicate with them in a way that they will then be able to sort of reason with you.
Okay. Yeah, I think just adding on that, I think the really tricky thing we've struggled with, and I think sometimes I think we get it better than others, is teaching them concepts and content and then teaching them the soft skills simultaneously so that they can merge the two. So when we talk, let's say we teach them about inquiry or questioning, how do you ask better questions? Immediately following that, we talk about how good questions are not often welcomed because people take them as a challenge of their own intellect and their own way of doing things rather than a challenge of a problem. So it's a tricky thing to teach, and we always emphasize both. So you can't just focus on like neck up. You have to go neck up, head down, like down, and then the relationship, right?
In the final 2 minutes, in the world of the internet, how do you get students to be critical about any information that they absorb and the assumptions they make leading to innovation and critical thinking?
I think that's actually the key, is that most of us have grown up in a world in which having the actual content itself was the skill. And so what you knew was really important. And we're getting to a point now where the internet is not going to break anytime in the near future, right? I mean, it's just, that's not the way it works. And so at some point, what we really need to start teaching students is how to be critical of the information and how to actually sift from the very loud signal that we actually are able to get, and all the different, and kind of sift out that signal from the noise of all the other stuff. And being able to kind of see what makes a good argument, being able to see what makes good reasoning, and being able to see the different perspectives, I think really does help with that ability to kind of go online and find
So the campus finally, you said, closed?
Finally today, yeah.
All right, so there's a graduation and certificate?
Graduation certificate sort of handing off today, and we're really looking forward to it. Anybody can drop by. We're at Republic Bank Sports Center. And Republic Bank has been really great to us. We started one, we're going to do presentations of their problem solving and what they've done for the week. And Habitat for Humanity will be in the room, parents will be in the room, and we're really looking forward to it.
Well, that's great. Continued good work to you both. And welcome to Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, enjoy it. I'm talking to Jeremy Dickstein and Keita Demming about a really innovative project, teaching our kids to think critically and be more innovative. That's our show for today. On behalf of the entire team, thank you for viewing. God willing, join us at 5:30 tomorrow morning, and we start the weekend right here on First Up. Stay with us.